I used to spend days crafting the film look. Now, I just unlock them. I recently received the Dehancer Pro plugin. Let's see if it works. Getting right to it, I load up a film that I'm working on called Strangers in a Diner. I'm using Premiere Pro. That's my NLE, my editor of choice. And let's get to it. So this is red footage I have on the timeline. I use an adjustment layer. I always use an adjustment layer. But first, let me make sure the red code is all clear. Okay, so that's clear. The red code, basically the metadata is kind of built into the file footage, and you can adjust it after you shoot. That's a beautiful thing about using professional film grading gear, using professional cameras. We're just gonna do this right off of the footage with an adjustment layer and see how fast it takes for us to come up with a look. Okay, one cool thing about Dehancer right out the gate, if you go to the source and it already comes with the Rec 709, it's like it's built in, because that's kind of universal. If you go to the input of Dehancer, you can go to the source, change the choose camera, and you can really just choose the type of camera you have. Now, in my case, my DP had his own build of his red camera, so I just picked, one of the options to see what it looks like. And there's some other adjustments, but this is more to see how quick can I come up with something. So let's move over to the whole reason people get this plugin is just look at the film stocks. Now it has a multitude of film stocks. When you load it, when you turn it on, it already loads one in. You got your center stills, you got your visions, you got the different stocks, negative stocks, positive color stocks. But I'm just going to jump over to the Vision 3 and just see what I get just throwing that on there. It's really nice. Let's they have several of the options from the different types, but let's move up to like the Chrotochrome, see what that looks like. I mean, it looks pretty nice. Let's see what else. There's the Ectochrome, which I'm really loving what it does to this. What it's doing to the skin tone. Let's see what the before and after looks like. Wow. I mean, that's a big change, and all we've done is just added a film stock, and all we did was tell it what kind of camera we have and then added a film stock, and we already have a look. That's pretty quick. Let's see what else we have in here. There's the Ilfords if you are black and white photographer. Ooh, and there's Aerochrome. Wow, I really like that look. I think I'm sticking with that. Now you had an option to push and pull, and what that does is adjust some of the exposures or the characteristics of the film stock itself. But let's move down to this film developer, and really a lot of this is just going to be experimental. One thing to keep in mind, you want to make sure you hit the enable button. But that's fine. This is almost working like a curve in a way. Let's make it big. I can see that there's grain. Let's see if we can turn that grain off, just so we can build this up. There it goes. Disable it. I mean, this is already. I could call this done and be fine. Okay, now there's this thing called color head. Now I'll say this, a lot of this is going to be what normal people do. They get a plugin, they tinker, they mess around, but it's always important to learn what each model does. So the color head, from my experimenting, looks like it's a more of a split toner. So you have the ability to adjust some of your yellow and blue slider and your magenta and green. And you can see just making these tweaks changes the tone of the picture some. Essentially working again like a split toner. But let's go ahead and move on to one of those modules that is really one of the reasons why people get Dehancer, and we'll go to the film grain. So in the film grain, once we enable it, you see it starts off with a 35mm. That's a standard film stock grain. It's very subtle. So we'll turn it on and off. This is what it looks like on. It's very subtle, very subtle. I believe if you really want to see something, you got to make it 8mm. Why? Because 8mm is such a small cell that any imperfection just pops. So as you see now, looking at yellow area, or that yellow panel of the booth, you see a lot of grain. Here, we'll just go down to the 65. Yeah, it's so fine that you can't see it. Okay, now let's just go back to 35. We'll just hit it with something subtle. Now we can move on to halation, another one of those things that people like. Halation is like this edge glow that you get, kind of in the way that final treatment goes, where it seals in some of that contrast and those blacks and that development. You get this edging, and if you have, actually it's better to show it without rim jet, because that's something that people see when you do still photography. You have what's called rim jet, and if you remove that rim jet, you get a more glow. You're essentially removing that finish, that sealant on the film, and it's showing that edge, almost like it removes the black and there's a little spill. And if you look, what I really like about what Dehancer does is, if you go to this mask, you check this mask box, you can see where your pinpoint of your halation is going to come from. So if you look at a shoulder and we turn mask off, let's blow it back up again, you can see that little red spill coming off of the edge of a shoulder, which, it gives you the ability to kind of control it. But let's go over and let's see what we get if we remove the rim. If we go to 8mm, remove rim jet, you see so much more glow there. See, on and off, which is a lot. Let's move on to the bloom. Bloom is another thing that people love. You see it when people are using Pro Mist filters, and they get that little look, that real softening of the sharp ends. I have to admit, in this particular shooting, we did use a sort of a Pro Mist filter on the shot, so we already had that softness that we wanted. So for me to add this would not be a good thing, so we're not going to use it. Another reason you get the Dehancer Pro plugins and plugins like it, film damage. Let's see what it looks like. Now you can see it's struggling a little bit. It's really pushing the resources of the computer that I was using, but I think it's fine. You can see, kind of look at what we're getting, and what you can see in that film damage is some of like the specks, the hairs, and the scratches coming through. So let's switch it to 1/4. Let's lighten up. Let's lighten up on our processing. You can see some of the white specks jump in and out, but the quality is so low it may be hard to see. Let's move it back up to half. Now, another thing that Dehancer does is let you customize this portion too. So you don't have to use the preset. You can really customize a lot of these things. You can see all the different options between the dust, the hairs, the scratches, and the amount. So if you really wanted to get in there and fine tune how much of that degrade that you get, go over to custom. Let's keep going. So film breadth. It's another one of these tools that you can use to continue to emulate that film effect. And breath is kind of like this. It's breathing. It's taking that exposure and your color exposure and it's popping it in and out. It's that flickering effect that people often talk about when they use a film off a film projector. It's really the film kind of bouncing a little bit, and that's where that film breath comes from. Let's take a look. Very, very hard to see off of 35mm again, because that's a standard stock, but you can kind of see it if you look kind of in the edges, in the darkness. You can see some of that exposure pop in and out. And again, you want to see it, drop it on 8mm, because again, 8mm being such a small cell, it exposes so much of the imperfections of anything that's going through the projector. If you like what you're seeing so far with Dehancer, visit Dehancer.com and download using my promo code Arowe, A-R-O-W-E. It has versions for both Mac and PC. You can use it on your editor of choice if it's Final Cut, Premiere Pro, or even DaVinci. If you're a photo editor, you can get the Lightroom or Photoshop plugin, as well as use the iOS version or the online version, which is a whole different experience from what you get on the desktop mode, just to make your life easier as a subscriber. So if you like it, try it or buy it using my promo code in the description. Let's get back to the review. Gate weave. Gate weave is another film emulation that Dehancer gives you. Gate weave is when you don't have a good connection, or what I say a good connection off your gate. It is when that film is going down the gate, it starts to wobble back and forth, and so it gives this idea of a shake when the film is running. I mean, honestly, Dehancer just in this I've spent more time trying to emulate more of the film look than I have off of the color, so it's already saved me so much time, and it's saving me even more time when before I would layer this up. I would layer this up with so many different layers in order to create this look. I'm doing it all off of my adjustment layer with one plugin, and I mean, it's great. Let's jump on over to Overscan. Overscan is basically just showing you what that film looks like, essentially. So enabling that Overscan, we hit it with the Super 35. That's what it's doing automatically, giving you your 4 perforations. On the look, this is going to be hard to see because my timeline is 1080. I forget what my actual scan is on my file, on my video file. But you get your 4 perforations. Let's go over to Super 8mm, 1 perforation, standard cell. Let's move over to Super 16, 2 perforation. Getting more of your wider screen there. Yeah, this is not going to be a great example just because of my original. Let's go down to Super 35. Super 35 again, 4 perforation. You got your widescreen, but personally, this isn't something that I would use for this particular project, so we can just move forward. Everything else, you got your vignetting, which is standard stuff. You have your monitor. Not sure what that is. Oh, got your false colors, your REs. I mean, stuff if you need to see it post to make sure you got your exposures, your colors right. Go for it. Probably not something I would use. We'd probably handle that before we even got to this stage. But let's take a look at before and after, what it looked like before and what it looks like now. So this is about as in-depth as I can get. I would say that, honestly, does it work? Yeah, I would use it. This is a project that I haven't even colored before. It's just a little clip that I pulled from something that I had that I'm working on, just to see how well Dehancer work. Now, if you like Dehancer, you can go over to Dehancer Pro. Use my promo code Arowe, A-R-O-W-E. It's in the comments. I do have some other explanations and tries and run-throughs where I use other footage to create this film look. Something that I did actually spend a lot of time creating a film-like look, and I tried to see if Dehancer Pro could, do it or do it even better. I have to admit, as a professional filmmaker, editor, it's going to be hard for me to go back from Dehancer. I'm just shocked at how quick I was able to get a look, the grain, the set, everything that comes with the film emulation, but not just a film emulation, but just a look and all the different film stocks that I can play with. I'm definitely going to be using this again in the future.